Hello students, welcome back. In this video, we're going to add a resource system to our game. This is going to be something that our user has to manage and sort of keep track of. And this is going to come in the form of managing our column stacks. So right now, our blocks are falling from the top of our screen, and they're building up, creating these columns. I think we have 6 columns in our game. But right now, our player can't really interact with them at all. And so what we're going to do is give them the ability to stand underneath in the center of 2 columns and swap the position of those 2 columns if certain conditions are met. And so this is going to allow our player to manipulate our game board and hopefully score more points as we match the colors of our falling blocks. So we'll also implement a score system here in this video. So let's head to the computer screen and we'll dive right in. So I've got lesson 4's starter file here on our resource system of managing column stacks open in vscode.dev. I'm going to minimize that file though because I'm going to head to my Broshi folder and open lesson 4 directly. All right, and so let's see what we have. So right now it looks like I've got 4 blocks falling and I don't think I can swap any columns yet. So right now, like had I been able to swap that, I could have scored some points. Nothing is swappable and there's no score system right now. Like I don't see any points showing up in the HUD anywhere. So seems like our system is broken. So let's head back to the code and let's see what we can do to fix this system. So mission 1 says we got to identify 2 columns besides the player or beside the player. All right. Before we do that, let's go look at what we got in this system. So in the student edit zone, any new variables? All right, so it looks like I got a score increase value of 25. So I'm guessing we're going to get 25 points maybe every time we clear a block. And what else do we got? No new colors. No new variables there. The only other variable we have for our gameplay variables is a score variable. So everything else is pretty much the same for this system. So let's do a control F and I'm going to search mission 1. And mission 1 finds us in a function called getColumnSwapPair. Okay, so it says get the 2 columns beside the player and use the player lane to define the pair. Okay, so I think it would serve us well to go back and just review our player object. So you can stay here. I'll jump. I'm going to select right here so we can look at our player object. So you can see our player object has 3 properties. It has an X property, a Y property, and then it has a swap lane property. And the swap lane is what's going to be really special for us. Because if you remember, at the beginning of this whole game, we said our player can be in swap lane 0, swap lane 1, 2, 3, or 4. All right, so a swap lane basically covers 2 columns that we are going to swap together. And so we're going to use that swap lane to figure out what are the 2 columns that we can swap. If we are in swap lane 0, we can swap column 0 and column 1. If we are in swap lane 1, we can swap columns 1 and column 2. If we're in swap lane 3, we can swap swap lane 2, we can swap columns 2 and 3. So it looks like we can always swap the current swap lane and that column and then the swap lane plus 1. So let's go back to mission 1 and we are going to return an object here holding those 2 pieces of information. So I'm going to create a property called left col, and its value will be the player object's swap lane. All right. So if I am over here, my swap lane is 0, and so the left column is going to be 0, column number 0. And the right column will be 0 plus 1, which is 1. So I can swap left column of 0, right column of 1. So let's add that right column property. So now we'll do right column, and we'll do player.swapLane plus 1. We'll add 1 to it. Mission number 1, done. I now know what 2 columns I could potentially swap. So right now I'm swapping, let's just see. I'm swapping column 0 and column 1. And if I come over here, I'm swapping columns 1 and 2, columns 2 and 3, columns 3 and 4, and columns 4 and 5. Perfect. Excellent. So what do we do with that? Clearly, we're returning this information somewhere. Let's go to mission 2. So let's go to mission 2. It says trigger the column swap with input. All right, in mission 2, it finds us in key pressed. Remember, this is going to run anytime we press a key on the keyboard. And when we do it, we get access to what key was pressed. So we're going to ask a question. It says, trigger the swap using the space key and only allow it during play mode. Okay, so I'm going to ask a question. The first question is going to be if the key that was pressed is equal to 3 equal signs for equality check, strict equality, space. And the way we do space is a space inside of a string. So this blank space represents the space key. If that space bar was pressed, we're now going to check to see if the current game mode, we'll ask a follow-up question, if current game mode is equal to our play mode, because we only want to swap them in the play state. So that's my game mode object dot play. We'll grab its play property. If those two things are yes, it looks like we're calling get swap column pair, that function that we were just working in. So we hit space, we go and figure out what are the 2 column numbers that we are trying to swap, and we return them into this variable pair. So that pair is an object, and it has a property, left column and right column. So maybe it's columns 3 and 4, or maybe columns 1 and 2. All right, I think mission 2 is pretty good. Can we actually swap any columns yet? Let's check it out. So if I hit the space bar, will they swap? Nothing, nada, nothing is happening. So we got to go to mission 3 because I really want to swap some columns. Mission 3, ooh, look at this. Mission 3 finds us in a function called swap columns. How perfect is that? So mission 3 finds us in this function called swap columns. It says swap the 2 column stack. So it looks like it's taking in a left column and a right column. Hey, we just found those in our other function. So we're probably going to pass them into swap columns. It says, all right, exchange their stored block arrays. All right. So these are numbers, right? Left column and right column are going to be numbers. I think it might be beneficial to, let's go review this because this can get a little tricky. Let's go review this here at the whiteboard. So I'm going to draw out a board. Okay, so here's my game board. Zoop, zoop. I've got 6 columns. And there's all these rows in the columns. All right, so this is column 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Each of those columns gets stored in an array called columns. And that array holds other arrays, right? So remember, these could have like blocks in them. So maybe we got a purple block here and a purple block here. And maybe we got a red block and a red block, and then a couple of blue blocks. So maybe a blue block, and a blue block. So in our array of columns, we are going to put other arrays. So we'll store our first column, column 0, and that is going to be an array that has the blocks purple, red, and blue in it. My next array will be my next column, which is going to be just a red block. And then we'll do a purple and a blue block. And then we'll do no blocks. And then we'll do a blue block. And then we'll do no blocks. And so each of these columns is at a specific index. This is like, 0, index 1, index 2, index 3, index 4, and index 5. And those indices correspond to the column numbers. Perfect. So if I know the left column number, left col, and right column number of the columns that I want to switch, maybe I'm right here in swap lane 1, I'm going to set left column equal to 0, right column equal to 1. So all I need to do to access those columns is open up my columns array, square brackets, and put in an index of 0. Now I'm working with that column. I could put in an index of 1, and now I'm working with that column. And so we are going to use this idea to swap our columns. So let's first start by creating a variable. I'll do const temp. I'll call it a temporary column. I'm going to open up the columns array and grab what is at the index of left column. Maybe it's 0. So now I'm storing that somewhere. I'm going to store it in temp because right now I'm going to overwrite the value of left column. I'm going to do columns, square brackets, reach in and grab what is at the left column number. So this is going to be column 0 in my example. And I'm going to assign that array. So this array that I'm assigning right now, oops, I didn't mean to open that up. This array that I'm reassigning is the red array that you see here, right? That's column left column if I'm choosing the column 0. So I'm going to overwrite purple, red, and blue. I'm going to overwrite it with the value of just our red block. And that red block right there is in columns right column. Ooh, right column. So now the right column has taken the place of the left column, but now the left column has to take the place of the right column. And the way we do that is we do columns right col. We're going to grab that right column and now assign it a new value. But we can't assign it left column because left column was just overwritten, but thankfully we stored it in the temp variable. All right, mission number 3 is done. We now have swapped columns. Let's check it out. Let's see if we can swap these things. All right, so they're falling. Okay, I hit space. Whoa, where'd that yellow block come from? What's going on? I'm swapping things. I'm hitting space and weird things are happening. I have no idea what is going on here. All right, let's see if we can figure this out. I swap. The blue just appears. So it's like the blue is overwriting everything. Let's take a look at what's happening here. Oh, I think I see it. If you look, I have columns. I have right column with a capital R. That is not correct. We passed in right column with a lowercase r. So the caps matters here. That was a weird little bug. So let's see if we fix that. Is this going to work better now? So let's see. All right, hey, look at that. I can swap those columns, and I can make those all disappear. Hey, look at that. I'm going to make these disappear. Now, can I swap these? Look at that. That's working pretty great. So I want to swap this blue. And then do you see how the blue just sort of like jumps up to the top? That's not going to be right. That's not good. Like I shouldn't be able to swap those and have the yellows land. Once a block gets below maybe the highest value in the swap, like look, like right now I shouldn't swap and let red go. So we got to put like some check in to make sure before we swap a column, is the falling block in that swap lane capable of being swapped? Because if it's not, we got to prevent that. So let's go to mission number 4 now. Mission number 4 is probably going to have us begin looking at that. It says find the empty row above a given column. All right. It puts us in a function called getFirstEmptyRow. That's a great name for this function. We've got to find the empty row above the top of a column. And we're taking in a column. So what column we want to find the empty row in. So the first thing we do is we create a variable called blocks_in_column, blocks_in_col. And we open up that columns array and we grab the current column number. So maybe it's column 0, column 1, column 2, column 3, and we get its length. So in this example right here, we grabbed column 0, its length is 3. So now, what do we want to do? Well, we want to find the first empty row above this column. Well, the first empty row, this is my 0 row, this is my first row, my second row, this is going to be my third row. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to take that length and I'm going to subtract it from the number of rows that I have. So let's return row count minus blocks in column. Row count is a constant, so I have 13 rows in my game, and I'll subtract the number of blocks in there. So let's go back to my whiteboard here. So if row count were 6, right, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows here. The row count, what we're returning here, our first empty row, I have 6 rows, so row count is 6. I'm subtracting the blocks in this column. I have 3 blocks. 6 minus 3 is 3. That is the third row then. 1, 2, 3 is my first empty row. We're not talking about the indices of the row, right? Because the indices are 0, 1, 2, and 3. I'm talking about the row number. First row, second row, third row is my empty row. If we were over here, I'd grab row count is 6. Blocks in row is 1. 6 minus 1 is 5. So my fifth row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is open. Perfect. So now where are we returning that value? So let's go to mission number 5. Mission number 5 says, check if a falling block is too low to swap. Too low to swap. Okay. So let's go look at where this brings us. It puts us in a function, canSwapColumns. All right, so we take in a left column and a right column. We've been working with those. We know we get those from our getSwapColumn pair function. And we get left top. We get the top of our left column by calling first empty row. So when we call getFirstEmptyRow, that function that we were just working with is going to return that first empty row to us. So now I've stored that in this variable, left top. We do something similar for our right column. We store it in right top. And then I figure out where is the highest top. All right, so I get the minimum value of the left top and the right top. So if we look at the picture I've been working with, imagine I want to swap these two columns. Left top is going to be 1, 2, 3. Right top is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so now I grab the highest top by taking the smaller of the two value. What's smaller, 3 or 5? It's 3, and so now I know this is the highest top that I have. Given that value, we now loop through all of our active blocks. So for const block of active blocks, this is going to loop through every active block we currently have falling on the screen, starting from the beginning of that array to the end. And we're going to work with each individual block as this variable, block. We get a true or false value. We ask a question. Block is in our swap columns. So we look at the current block that we have. We look at our left column and our right column, and we ask, hey, is it in either the left or right column that we are working with? So if there's a block falling over here, and we're over here trying to swap these columns, we're not going to do anything. All right, we're not going to worry about it. But if the block is, say, in this column or this column, then we got to worry about it. So if it's not in our swap columns, we just continue. We skip over that block. We check the next one. Also, if the block is not falling yet, if it's just waiting, we're going to continue. We're only going to do these checks if we are falling. And so here is mission number 5, our swap safety check. Check if a falling block is too low. Compare its row to the column height. So we know our highest top. In our example, where is my mouse? There we go. In our example, our highest top was right here, which is row 3, our third row. So we're going to check to see if the blocks row is greater than or equal to that highest top. So if it's greater than or equal to that, then we are just going to return. We're going to get out of here. So we're going to return false because we cannot swap those columns. We're going to say if our current blocks row is greater than or equal to the highest top, then return. We are going to return false, meaning we cannot swap our columns. But if we checked every single block and this was never true, then we're going to return true, meaning we can swap our columns. Let's showcase this idea here, right here. So imagine if I have a block that's falling, and I'll use a yellow block to indicate this. Let's say I have a yellow block and it's falling right here. Okay, so it's going down. Can I swap these columns? I should absolutely be able to swap these columns because right now, if we look, my blocks row is row number 1. All right, row number 1. No, I'm sorry. Its row property is based off the indices. So this is going to be row number 0, I think. All right, row number 0. And so 0, our blocks row, is not greater than our highest top. Remember, our highest top is right here at what we were calling row 3. So 0, nope, not greater than highest top, so it's good. So then it goes down, and now it's here. Now its row is row 1. Still, we're okay. All right, now it's here in row 2. We can still swap it. But once it gets here in 3, I should not be able to swap these columns anymore because there's going to be like a collision. This is when that block then like snapped into position up here, and it was like super weird. I didn't like it. So once that is the case, we return with false, that we're no longer allowed to swap anymore. All right, I think that check is gonna work. Let's just see if we can see it in action here. Let's refresh this page. I'll build up some columns. I'm gonna pause the video so I can build up some columns, and then we'll test it. Okay, so if you look here, I think we've implemented it, but it's not working. So like, see right there, I can make that blue block jump up to the top. So the code is there, but we're not actually ever blocking the swaps. So that's a big, big problem. So we got to go to mission number 6. Mission 6 says block the swap when it is unsafe. Yeah, that's sort of exactly what we got to do. We got to block that swap. And so mission 6 puts us in our key pressed, because in key pressed, we press the space key. If that key was spaced, if we are currently in our play mode, we go grab our pair, our get column swap pair, and then we ask a question. It says, if true. Doesn't matter what the answer to that question is. It's always going to be yes. We call our swap columns function, and we pass in the pair's left column and the right column. So we only want to swap our columns if a certain condition is true. And we're going to call can swap column. So we're going to call that function. And so let's go search for this function. So I'm going to double click to highlight it, and I'll hit Control F. And if we look, can swap columns needs a left column and a right column. And it's going to go through and test, can we actually swap? It's either going to return false or true. And we're going to use that result, that value that is returned to us, to answer our question in mission 6. So I'm going to go back to mission 6 now, and we're going to say, okay, can swap columns. It's going to return true or false. If it's true, we'll swap the columns. If it's false, we will not. That code won't execute. But we got to pass in the 2 columns that we want to check. Well, it's going to be from our variable pair. Remember, they have a left column and a right column. So we'll do pair.right column. All right, now if we run our game, we should see those swaps being blocked. So let's test it out. I'm going to build up some columns here. All right, I'll build up a little bit more. All right, so let's see. Can I swap? And I can't. I was trying to swap that. Let's see. I'm going to try to swap this with the blue. Nothing. And it only can swap once they land. So it looks like we fixed that bug. That's working really great. Like, can I swap red right now? I can't. I cannot. Perfect. So I'm really happy with that. Now, if you notice, I'm scoring a lot of points here, and right now we have no score showing up. So we're clearing blocks. We're able to move our columns around to increase our score. Let's give ourselves some score. So this is going to find us back in a function that we have worked in the past, resolve block landing. Remember, this is where we check to see if the top block in a column, if its color matched the current block's color. And if it did, we removed them. So now I want to give myself some score. Well, we had a variable that we saw here at the start of our video called score. We are going to increase that by our constant score increase value. Congrats, you just earned 25 points. Refresh the page. Let's earn some points here. So we let some blocks fall. I'm going to grab some yellow points and some red points. I guess I grabbed points. Did I? I don't know. Nothing shows up in the HUD. We have no indication of what our score currently is. So mission 8 is hopefully going to fix that for us. Mission 8 finds us in draw HUD. Thank goodness. We have to add the score in the HUD. So let's do that right now. The way we're going to do that is by creating some new text. So our text size is set to 24. All right, I like that. I've aligned the text to be right and center. Sure, I like that. Let's do text. And I'm going to say score and then a colon. And I don't know, I don't want to set like 0 or 100 because that will always be the case. Instead, I'm going to add to it whatever is in my variable score. Now, we are right aligning the text, which means I'm going to position it based off of the end of this string. So like if this said like score 1500, we're going to position it based off of the end of this string. So I am going to put the end of the string the right side of my canvas, and then I'm going to push it back just a little bit. So this is the width of my canvas, and then we'll push it back just a little bit because I'm going to have the score in the right corner of the screen. So the X position is going to be the width, and then I'm going to subtract 15 to push it back a bit. And then the vertical position, we want to center it. I want to put it all the way down here. So that's the height of my canvas. Is going to put me at the bottom, but then I'm going to subtract the HUD height, which would give me all the way back up here, but I don't want to subtract all the HUD height. I'm going to subtract half of the HUD height so that I'm centered in it. So we'll do the height of my canvas, and then we'll subtract the HUD height, tab for autocomplete, divided by 2 to move us back up into the center. And with that, I think we'll now see our score variable. Let's check it out. Hey, there's our score. Let's see if we earn some points. All right, so I'm going to get a clear here. Do I get 25 points? And I do. Excellent. I should get 50 points here. No, I should get 75. Yeah, I had 3 clears. Awesome. So this looks like it's working. All right, so our game, actually, this is actually like playable right now in its current state. I feel like we could just stop here after 4 videos, but we're not going to do it because we could make this game so much better. And we're going to continue making it better here in our next video. So I'll see you then.